How's it going, everybody? This is the Nitty Gritty. My name is Chad. With me, as usual, is Leonard. This is a show about wrestling. And this week, we're going to be doing something different. We don't often do topics on the serious side here. That's not to say that this won't be fun, because we probably will have fun with it. But this will be a little bit out of the ordinary, I would say. And before we get started, let me just say that there will be things that I say. I won't speak for Leonard because I have no idea what he's going to say. He knows what the topic is, but he has no idea what I'm going to say.
Yes.
There will be things that I say that people out there probably don't like. And it is what it is. I'm going to try not to come across as whining. I am going to try to not to ramble too much.
I will say this is Chad's topic. He picked it. He wanted to talk about it.
I did. And, usually we'll do like a game or we'll do fantasy booking type stuff. That's not what this is. This is just kind of a general topic. And the topic I'm calling is called wrestling tribalism. Now, I've been thinking about discussing stuff like this with Leonard for a while now, but I will give credit where credit is due. Referring to it as tribalism, I actually got from a former colleague of ours on Twitter, Jeremy Thomas. Now, leading into the Tuesday night head-to-head between AEW and NXT, I think Jeremy put up a tweet, something to the effect of, this should be a great night of wrestling, and I don't want to hear anything about, who did well in the ratings. Your wrestling tribalism is one of the worst things to happen to the industry in quite a while. That's what he said in his tweet. That gave me a good title for this topic. That's kind of where I got that. So at the same time, we are going to be talking about not just the internet wrestling community, the IWC, as it's affectionately called or unaffectionately called. We're going to be talking about wrestling fandom in general here. Now, I'm going to start off by saying what was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. And Leonard has an idea what this is because I texted him about it weeks ago. There is a group either partially run by or totally run by another former colleague of ours at 411 Mania. Greg DeMarco is his name. And you know what? He very well might check out our show. He very well might, because he invited us to join his group on Facebook. I know we've posted in that group before, so very well might listen to this. And
I don't know if he does specifically, but it would not surprise me if he does.
Neither do I, and I hope that he doesn't take offense to this stuff. It's not about him personally, but his name has to be mentioned because that's kind of what pushed me a little bit over the edge. So, anyway, the group is called The Chair Shot. Go check it out if you feel so inclined. And I simply had to, leave the group. I had to leave the group because now sometimes with friends that you find annoying, if maybe they're posting too much about politics or too many pictures of their kids, you could just snooze them, right, for 30 days or whatever, and you don't have to look at those people for a while. Far as I could see, I'm an old man, you can't do that with groups. So I elected to leave the group. That's not to say I'm not going to rejoin someday, but it was getting too aggravating for me. And here's why. Now, before I lead into that, I will just say I'm going to try my best to be as neutral as possible. It's no secret to those who have checked out our show before, I, these days, am more pro AEW. That's the show I watch more often. I'm going to try not to be too heavily leaning in that direction. I'm going to try to be neutral. And hopefully, Leonard will try to be neutral too. Leonard doesn't watch anything that's new.
Yeah, I watch nothing, so therefore I don't think I have any allegiances.
Right. So it got the group, The Chair Shot, to me, Leonard, it got to the point where it was so like pro everything that WWE did and so anti everything AEW did that I couldn't take it. And one of the situations that made me mad was something that was a response to what you posted. I was so close to responding to something like anyway, so Leonard posted about in a response to the name Lexus King, which is Brian Pillman Jr.'s new name in NXT.
Yes.
And Greg, our former colleague, went and mentioned Braun Breaker as a defense of Leonard's joking, about the name Lexus King.
And yes, I said that that Lexus King is the equivalent of Curtis Axel.
Right.
That it was taking the known son of a professional wrestler, taking some of their background elements to come up with a new name when they didn't really need to do that. And the fact that the commentary team is going to tell you 87 times during a match, oh, that's Brian Pillman's son. Just like they said 87 times during every Curtis Axel match or Joe McGillicuddy match, oh, that's Curtis Axel's son, or that's Kurt Hennig's son.
Right.
No, that was the point I was trying to make in a humorous fashion. That yes, Lexus King and Curtis Axel is the exact same type of name that WWE came up with for these two different individuals.
Right, and I think you made a joke about Jack Perry and what his name might be.
Yes, I believe I said it was going to be Dylan Andrews because his dad had played Dylan Walsh on 90210 and was Archie's dad on like Riverdale. Like those were sort of the bookends of his career. So that's why I said that's what Jack Perry's name would be.
Right. So, I understood what Leonard where Leonard was coming from, and the response was a very serious one in that.
Yeah, which surprised me.
Trying to defend it by saying Braun Breaker was an example of how somebody can have a made-up name and that person be successful. And I was very close to responding. And by the way, this is a small example of a number on this particular group. This is the one I remember. And I was very close to responding, like, if you're going to defend it, why would you mention Braun Breaker? Because first of all, he's still on NXT, for goodness sakes. He hasn't made it to the main roster shows yet. Why? Because he's still too green. And by the way, they do exactly what Leonard said they did, which is they mention who his dad is all the time.
Yeah. So why not have him be Rex Steiner or Braun Steiner or any other variation?
It goes to, and look, and Greg was saying, I think in a different post, he had said how Brian Pillman Jr. came up with the name. It relates to his family. I get that totally. I'm sure he did choose what the name was, but I guarantee you he didn't choose to change his name. I would bet any amount of money that they said, hey, you got to change your name. You can choose what it is. So
from what I know, he used the name Alex King at one point on the indie.
Okay.
So, but Lexus King is probably so WWE could have the copyright to it. Exactly. And I didn't comment this, but Lexus King sounds like a stripper name.
Well, yeah. So, look, I mean, it's so WWE can own it. Can we not pretend that it's anything else? Like, I understand the name that the names that he chose were heartfelt, but like, can we stop pretending like it's like his own creation totally? Like, he's just making the company happy. And I hope that he grows and matures and gets better. I really do. However, we've seen his debut, and the most comments I saw were that he looks like a Vince Neil ripoff. So there that is. I don't know. Like it's starting on shaky ground. I'll just say that. But I'm willing to see it through. Did you see the debut, Leonard?
I saw the promo. I listened to the promo. I thought it was a good heel promo because everything he said made sense. It was coming from, I think, a point of reality and real emotion for him. So I think it worked in that way. Again, the look, the name, those are things that may get tweaked over time. But the core of what he was saying, I think, worked, and how he said it, I think, worked. I've generally liked Brian Pillman Jr. I actually met him once. Very early in his career, he wrestled for Bobby Fulton's promotion once. Actually, he didn't wrestle. He was supposed to, and he was injured, but he still came for the Fan Fest. So I have met him, and was a great guy to talk to. Seemed very earnest about following in his father's footsteps and wanting to be a pro wrestler and enjoying wrestling, and just loved being around, at this Fan Fest and being able to talk to people who knew his dad and hang out with people Bobby Fulton, and I remember Ronnie Garvin was there. And of course, they were in WCW very early on when Pillman started and all this. So, yeah, I like Brian Pillman, and I hope all the best for him. Maybe here's the thing. I'll mention this too. I don't remember where I heard this at or who said it, but it makes perfect sense. If you can't in your mind hear Howard Finkel say, winner and new WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Lexis King, if that doesn't sound right to you, then that means that guy's never going to win that belt.
Right. No, that's true. And I was listening to a recent Bruce Pritchard podcast, and I think he said, I forget what wrestler it was about, but it was a wrestler that had gone by his real name and then went by a made-up name. And his argument, which makes perfect sense, was that sometimes it was easier for that person to latch on to a character rather than to start out by playing an extension of who they really are. And that makes sense to me. And I hope that works out. But in looking back, a lot of times when WWE takes somebody that we absolutely know who it is and they give him this fake name, a lot of times it doesn't work out. It turns to crap, or like Leonard said, over time, there's so many tweaks that Rocky Maivia becomes The Rock. So, anything's possible. So that's just, that kind of stuff. But that was so prevalent on the page. Like, it was just everything that anybody said that was against WWE, like, he would come to their defense. And it like, I'm past the point now where, like, I get into, flame wars or whatever they call it on social media. I don't have time for that. I like to make certain points when I feel like it, but I just it was aggravating to the point where I had to let it go. And a lot of the content on the page at that time was about the couple weeks old now, NXT versus AEW Tuesday night head-to-head situation that happened. And that, Leonard, I know that you don't watch either show, but I'm sure you were keeping up with some of the stuff going on. That got a little out of hand, did it not?
Yeah, it did. And I saw the ratings. I saw Tony Khan's tweet, which I didn't know if you wanted to talk about.
We'll get there.
Okay, I thought you had mentioned something about that. It was kind of ridiculous. Yeah. Like I said, didn't watch the shows. I kind of know they went head to head. I know that WWE threw everything they had basically at NXT. And why not? Gamesmanship. I mean, if you're going head to head with your competition, and here's the thing, Tony Khan talks all the time about WWE. WWE doesn't talk ever about Tony Khan.
Not outright.
Not outright.
But they certainly make moves.
But yeah, see, that's the point I was making. They don't, like Tony Khan will say WWE, Vince McMahon, Triple H, will say the names.
Right.
They don't say it. But yes, they're making strategic moves to go up against them when they go up against them. And that's how you should do it. I mean, that's...
Well, okay, yeah, yes and no.
That's how I think you should do it. I mean, don't...
Moves I agree with. I wouldn't call strategic moves bringing out a guy who's long since retired just to come in and choke slam somebody at the end. I wouldn't call a strategic move bringing John Cena out on NXT. Why did they do that? They did it just to pad the card so that people would tune in. And here's the thing. It's sad to me. I don't think they needed to do that to win. It's WWE. Of course they're going to get better ratings. And of course they're going to get better ratings with those two guys on the card, as being marketed. Of course they are. Like, and by the way, Tuesday is not the regular Dynamite day. So, like, it got ridiculous. It's like a little unfair to be like, see, NXT, look at how much better it is than AEW. What? Like, it's a Tuesday night. They were preempted. They were doing what they could so that people checked out their show. And then, yes, it became well, you're doing this, so I'm going to do that. Well, you're doing this, so I'm going to do that. Half hour, no commercials. The Undertaker, LA Knight, Edge, whoever, not Edge. Sorry. Excuse me, Adam Cole.
On the other side. But no, here's my thinking on that is as a regular wrestling fan, why do you care about the ratings?
Exactly.
Why do you care? I mean, it's 100% truth. WWE gets better ratings than AEW. Why do you care? You know, it's 100% truth that AEW's ticket sales, house show ticket sales are down. Their merch sales are down. Why do you care?
Exactly. Dave Meltzer said recently, it was around the same time Adam Copeland debuted, that AEW is cold right now, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a guy that loves a lot of the stuff that they do, and he's
Yes, is very pro AEW from what I've seen and heard, like 90% of the time.
right, and he's right. They are a little cold right now. I'm not going to deny that. Like, but Leonard makes a great point. Like, why are we so hung up on the ratings and hung up on something else, which we'll might as well just get into it now. And that is like this sudden obsession with taking pictures of the hard cam side. Oh my God. I just like, I
No
remember,
one sits on the hard. You know what? I like to sit in the hard cam side.
I would.
Most, yeah, most people don't because you're not going to get on camera, and a lot of times they don't sell those seats because those seats aren't going to be on camera. So I don't know why that's become a thing all of a sudden.
Right.
Because
It's not a
if
new
you've
thing.
ever been to a taping of anything, you've seen that.
Right. It's not a new practice. But nowadays, apparently certain fans are just now discovering that it is a thing, and they're making it seem like, oh man, see, AEW is about to go out of business. Look at them this week. And they'll take an AEW house show and put it next to like, a Raw show right now or whatever and be like, see how much different, like, it's ridiculous. It's so stupid. Like, I'm not denying, like Leonard said, I'm not denying WWE gets better ticket sales. I'm sure right now they do. But like, it's maddening every day. And it's not just the group I mentioned, the Chair Shot, by the way. Like Sports Kita, the Dirt Sheet, whatever, like all those groups on Facebook. Some of them I don't even belong to, but they just come across because, algorithm and whatnot.
Yes.
Like I see it, I see a new photo every day of an AEW crowd. And it's depressing, Leonard, to the point where like I'm like almost don't care about any modern wrestling at all. Like, because it's just, to me, the fan base is as toxic now as it has ever been. And I will say this, and I don't know, you, Leonard, have a lot of friends that are closer to you that like wrestling and enjoy wrestling. So you talk more freely with close friends than I do.
Sure. You know Dan, you know Ronnie, you know
Right.
Tom, you know, yeah.
Right. And I have, like, the reason why I'm doing this show with Leonard, not just because he's a friend, but because he's one of the guys that I can talk to about wrestling all the time. Like, a lot of the people that I'm with don't watch wrestling, which is fine. But sometimes people will bring up fan bases, like maybe fan bases of teams, like, Philly fans or this or whatever. And sometimes somebody will look at me knowing that I like wrestling and they'll ask me, what about wrestling fans? And my answer is always the same. Wrestling fans are the worst. Wrestling fans are the worst ever. Most of them, not all, bitter, angry trolls, hypocritical people who just like to shit on everything. Like,
Yeah.
to the point now where, like, even comments I've seen online, oh, well, you can't use the just enjoy wrestling comment anymore. We're past that. You can't use that anymore. What? Why? like, like, I,
Here's the analogy I came up with, and you're probably going to hate the analogy. I'm going to give it to you anyway. AEW right now is like Donald Trump. You either hate Donald Trump or you love Donald Trump. And there's people in the middle who don't care that get ignored because they're not the loudest voice in the room.
right.
And two, and here's something that you might disagree with me on. People who are anti-Trumpers don't necessarily love Joe Biden. There's a lot of people who don't
Right.
care for Joe Biden one way or the other. And I think a lot of your anti-AEW people don't care about WWE one way or the other.
Well, I don't totally disagree with you there. And here's the thing: a lot of what you said in the middle there was true. A lot of
Yeah.
these people are not the loudest voices in the room. So what I see nowadays is I see plenty of the people who are just pro AEW, and honestly, some of those people come across as ignorant. like, why are you not paying attention to the whole picture?
Mm-hmm.
More often now, I see the people that are either A, anti AEW, or B, so pro WWE that everything AEW is doing is bad, or WCW light, or TNA esque, or whatever. Like, and it's just it gets old after a while. And like, what I don't understand is, like, when you're posting pictures of the crowd or you're talking about social media content, like, that's not indicative of how good the talent is. That's not indicative of how good the matches are. Like, we're getting bogged down in nonsense. And let me just say this: as far as Tony Khan's social media presence, I agree. Somebody needs to tell him to dial it back. Like Chris Jericho just said on something, an interview, he said that, he's not going to tell him what to do. He's not going to blah, 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 blah. If I were sitting next to him, it would be like the M. Night Shyamalan thing where somebody needs to tell him no. I would be like, okay, when you're tweeting out a picture that says bald asshole, maybe don't do that. Like, that's not necessary to do. Like, I agree. His presence on social media is a problem. However, me now, I like a lot more of what AEW brings to the table because it suits my interest more as a wrestling fan as I am now. I like a lot of the stories. I like a lot of the match content. And here's the other part that I've never talked about on this show before. I like the unpredictability of AEW because you never know what you're going to find when you tune in. You could see something that's a train wreck and laughably bad, or you could see like a 4+ star match. Like, you never know what you're going to find. You could see a botch that is unlike anything you've seen before in your life. You could see, that one scene weeks ago where they were interviewing Keith Lee on Collision, and like the guy with the thing came across, take 22. Like, I don't know if you saw that, Leonard.
No, I didn't see that one.
And it was like embarrassing. It was just like, my gosh, what are you doing? It's unpredictable. And I like that aspect of it because right now, WWE to me is very predictable. I'm not saying they don't have any good matches, but, they're in this period now where the champions are champs for a long time. And the matches, you could kind of set your structure by them. Like, they all resemble the same. Some stuff is good, some stuff is bad. Like, that's just my opinion personally. But like, I don't want WWE to go out of business. I think competition is good for both companies. I think it's a healthy thing. So if we're gonna critique AEW, let's critique the content. I mean, some people say that, I don't like Tony Khan as a booker. And that's fine with me. I have no issue with the people that say stuff like that. I'd love to talk to those people about what specifically they mean. But that I don't have a problem with. But it's like when people are drawing attention to social media posts and pictures of empty arenas, like, I'm sorry, I don't understand that. And that's the part that really gets under my skin.
What's very odd is if you go back to, say, pre-pandemic, 2019, everyone was excited. The fact that you could watch pro wrestling every night of the week between WWE and AEW and TNA and New Japan, and even very small companies like, Ring of Honor was still going and MLW was coming up and all this stuff. And everyone was excited. This is the best time ever to be a wrestling fan. And now we're here
Right.
where you have these very, very loud pockets of fans fighting each other. Right. And I think the casual fan has really dropped off.
Yes. That is evident in the ratings, by the way.
Yes, that's very evident in the ratings. That's very evident in the ticket sales. Very evident in the merch sales. I saw one a while back. It was a list of like the best-selling merch for like both companies, and WWE's like top 10 was like Stone Cold, Rock, NWO,
Yeah.
Undertaker, and the AEW stuff was Punk, who's not there anymore, Sting, Christian, like all the old guys that you knew from WWE. So what this says is you're not creating new stars really, and you're not exciting the casual fan base with with new stars. So if you should be concerned about anything as a wrestling fan, the concern should be that I don't think I think both companies have some great young talent, but I don't think they're building them and pushing them the way they need to. And without that creation of new talent, you're not going to interest the casual fans. And I mean, go back and you look during the boom periods. You had Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, all these new talent at the time. Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, new talent at the time. So I think that's the big thing that if, like I said earlier, I don't think you should be concerned about ratings. I think you should be concerned about the lack of development of new talent. And I think that's me going off on another tangent there on you, but that was.
No, I agree. Oh, and I didn't even comment about your Trump analogy. And even
Yeah.
though I don't know if I would have picked the exact analogy, but I know exactly where you're coming from, and I agree basically with the analogy, even though I don't like the name is what it is, but like it's
Yes.
So yeah, let's move on a little bit here. And I mentioned hypocrisy of fans, and nothing is more evident in that than the name CM Punk, which what were all the fans discussing before he got fired from AEW? They were saying, Tony Khan, what's wrong with him? He needed to get rid of him the first time. This is ridiculous. It's an embarrassment, blah, blah, blah. If he was a better promoter, he would have done whatever, all the stuff. He fired him. Now he's gone. Then you would hear those same people being like, oh, man, I hope he debuts at Survivor Series. Wouldn't that be great? I hope he debuts at Survivor Series, so then he goes to the Royal Rumble and wins it, and then he headlock. It's just like, what? Like who are you? Like that. This is like we have such short-term memory that like we're now just like, oh, he's gonna be back in WWE again. Is it gonna be great? And in my head now, Leonard and I made a bet, which
Yes.
for now I'm safe. I think for now I'm safe because the news that came out I don't know, about a month ago from Dave Meltzer, which you could take with a grain of salt, is that WWE passed on signing him for now, and that was not going to happen. CM Punk is still very cryptic in his tweets. WWE, like, people will pick out these random hints, air quotes, that they think refer to CM Punk, which is just ridiculous. I don't think he's coming to WWE anytime soon. Now the new thing is, well, man, what if he goes to TNA Impact? I don't know.
And run the whole show, which if that's what he really has always wanted to do, he would be the biggest fish in the smallest pond. But I'll go off what you just said, another political analogy, and I said this is what you can boil down politics today, is that if my guy and me do it, it's fine. If your guy and you do it, it's bad. If it's the exact same thing. So yes, the anti AEW people would be, oh, that's a horrible move about CM Punk, and then when Punk is gone, it's like, yes, I hope we get him now.
Yeah. I guess you could equate that also to like sports, right? Like, oh man,
yeah, in general, yeah. I remember,
Henry, but oh, now he's with the Ravens now. Oh, that's great. Can't wait.
Yeah, a friend of the show, Dan, he's a huge Cowboys fan. I got on him about Tony Romo all the time, and he loved. Here's the thing about Dan, because I don't know if he listens that much to us or not, but like the Undertaker has never had a bad match, and the Cowboys have never had a bad draft pick. and I used to get on him all the time about Tony Romo. And soon as Romo left the Cowboys, it was a non-argument. I don't care anymore. So I won that one.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a passionate fan right there.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing, real quick, if I could throw in, I think it's the idea, and Dan's this way, and I've told him this, it's loyalty to a fault, that I am so loyal that I can't say anything bad because I feel that's disloyal, even if I make a critique that is technically sound. It's me going against what I love. It's me being disloyal. And I think you see that as well.
Yeah, and that's what I like. I've never been that way, and like I don't understand that way, whether it's politics or wrestling. I don't like. I'll call a spade a spade. Like, gosh, like the people that are like pro either company, like what have these companies done to make you so loyal at this juncture? Like Roman Reigns being the champion for over 1,000 days has like that's what you think is like the greatest way to go. Like, I mean, I don't know, like, or whatever. Like it's crazy to me. I hope all wrestling succeeds. Like the deals that Billy Corgan and NWA made recently for shows on the CW. I hope that they succeed. I think it's going to be very hard to succeed on the CW because I don't think that that's a station that is in love with wrestling, but maybe they will be. I hope that they are, and I hope that it succeeds. That's a great thing for them.
And I don't have cable, but I'd be very interested in watching the show because I told you the last thing I regularly watched was NWA Power because being an old school fan, I like the fact that it was an old style studio show.
Right, right. And now we also have Impact changing its name back to TNA, and I didn't see their Bound for Glory event, but by all accounts, it was a pretty solid event. There were some good matches on it. I do want to see it at some point, but we only have so much time in the week, right? I mean, there's so much wrestling content there,
and so many people don't have cable anymore. And I think that's one way that WWE has really been able to keep the foothold they've had is because of Peacock. Like they're on a streaming service.
Right.
I know AEW has that deal with HBO Max, but I'm not exactly sure what's on it or not on it. Or
yeah, I mean it's been rumored for a long time, and the latest I heard is that it's possible that they'll move to 12 events a year and go to HBO Max for short. But I don't know if that's confirmed yet or not. I'm not sure. I guess we'll have to see what happens. Yeah. 2024 will be a big year for AEW in could be good ways and bad ways. MJF's contract is up. I think some other contracts are up. Will Ospreay is a free agent in early 2024. Not that he's with AEW, he's not. But so a lot is going to happen. I'm sure. I could go on about the hypocrisy thing with different comparisons. I don't think I need to do that at this point. I think I made my point. But this is a topic that we could talk a lot longer for.
Yeah, but no one wants to hear it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So my ending note here is that it just right now it feels like you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't with regard to being a wrestling fan. The people that just enjoy it, it's becoming tougher to just enjoy it because these loud pockets of fans are making it not enjoyable. And I think that that's a problem. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. And I hope that changes. I really hope the competition between AEW and WWE continues. I don't expect AEW to catch WWE anytime soon. They offer something different. WWE offers higher production value and whatever else. AEW offers maybe more of a focus on match content and different styles. And you like what you like. NWA offers more old school type of approach. Like, there's a lot out there for everyone, and I wish that we could all just kind of cohabitate the same space as wrestling fans and support each other more than like saying, hey, look at how that show was empty. Like, to me, that's silly.
Yeah, friend of the show, Brian Zane on Wrestling with Regret says, like what you like and don't be a dick. And right now, everyone is being a dick. Not everyone. Again, going back to my point, I think there's more of that silent pocket in the middle than the two extremes.
I agree. And please let us know what you think in the comments. I mentioned Greg's name. He is free to come on and have a discussion with us. I think that would be fun. So anyway, check out our other episodes, our other shows and videos, random match reviews, what's that card, stupid questions, segment surgery. We're also available wherever you listen to podcasts. For Leonard, my name is Chad, and we will see you next time.